Hey folks, welcome back to school. My name is Amara Holslander. I will be your instructor for Interactive Media 2, which is part of the digital design program here at CU Denver. As a reminder, this is a completely online class, so the instruction and all the assignments will be delivered and submitted via Canvas, which is likely where you're seeing this video anyways. Um, I will spend a little bit of time just walking you through the class so that you get situated. For the folks who've had my class before, there aren't many changes to the format, so you can kind of zoom, you can look around and see if there's much else that you need to look at. Towards the end, I will talk about your big project that you'll be working on throughout the semester. So those returning students may just need to scrub ahead to that portion. Alas, let me go ahead and give you a quick introduction as to who I am. As I mentioned, I'm Amara. I'm currently a senior UX designer at Amazon. I focus on Alexa AI and specifically all of the engineering tools required to bring Alexa skills to life. I've been in this role for about 6 or 7 months now. And previous to that, still at Amazon, but I was focused on retail experiences. So anytime you went on the website or the app, I was part of a very large team that focused on retail experiences for high consideration products. So anything that costs between a couple hundred to a couple $1,000s. I was part of projects that helped customers make decisions on what products to buy, kind of evaluate the technical specifications of them, how to protect those purchases, accessories and compatible, things that you might need with it. So I was focusing on that for a bit. Previous to that, at Amazon, I also worked on the cashierless grocery store called Amazon Go. And previous to that, worked on other like apps and marketing related products. I've also worked in robotics. There's a company out in Boulder called Sphero. One of my first projects at that company in 2015 was to work on the app-enabled BB-8 robot. So the thing that this little robot, I usually have it with me, little robot that you use, you connect it with your phone, like you can drive it around and stuff. That was a super fun project. I've also worked on the Star Wars Force Band, which is a wearable that you use to drive the robot. Because it turns out that parents didn't want to hand over, their $1,000 phones to their kids to drive the robots. Who knew? And previous to my life in tech, I worked in design for advertising and marketing, at a design agency right out of college, and then moved over to web design pretty quickly after that. So hope that gives you enough information about me. My classes are really structured around staying kind of, responsive to industry trends. Um, I don't like assigning busy work because that's more work for you and it's more work for me, obviously, to grade. So every assignment that I provide has a purpose. And it's typically to help prepare you for, expectations that I'm seeing in the job market for entry-level designers, or to keep you all kind of abreast on these upcoming technologies. We know that AI is kind of taking the design, career by storm, and I will try to incorporate some of that thinking in the projects that we do. I am not anti-AI, obviously, like I work on Alexa AI. So it'd be really weird if I was anti-AI. But, I do encourage the use of AI tools in class for brainstorming, for copy editing, getting like feedback on a project. Now, as good as a robot can give you feedback, of course, always take things with a grain of salt. However, I do want you to still, submit original work. This becomes increasingly important in your portfolio because you will eventually use these portfolio pieces as part of your presentation. And there's nothing more embarrassing than having outsourced your design work to AI to then not be able to articulate like all the things that you did with it. And I've seen that happen. So that's why I'm warning you. Don't be the first person to outsource your job to AI. Like you're here, you're paying lots of money to be in school. shortcutting your work. Plagiarizing using AI is not great. It's not a good use of your time or my time or the money that you're spending to be here. So I highly encourage that you use these tools to supplement and to help accelerate some of your work, but not as a replacement to doing the hard work itself. All right, now that we've gotten that out the way, let's go ahead. I'm going to switch my view here to Canvas. Nope. For some reason, it's on a different view. Let me see here. Where are you? Chrome. Okay, that's weird. No. Okay, this is strange. Let me see. Quick technical difficulties. What window is that on? No. And it's here. Okay. Let me say application window capture. Nope. Display capture? Nope. Application capture. Okay, here we go. I guess I just needed to reset it. I will save that. Okay, cool. So when you log into Canvas, chances are you've gotten this video through a Canvas announcement, so you're technically already in Canvas. By the time I publish this video, there will be an announcement posted. Can you see my mouse? Okay, you can. You'll see, you'll see this tab eventually highlighted, but that will be the announcement that includes this video. Okay, so my class is broken up into 2-week sprints, and 2-week sprints is kind of like an industry thing where every 2 weeks you're kind of expected to turn over like a design version or a new design idea. It kind of gives you a nice little time box, because design, kind of needs some guardrails or we just kind of spin forever. But it gives you 2 weeks to do some solid work, to turn it in and to get feedback. So whether that's in the industry or that's here in class, I'd love for you to start getting into the practice of expecting to show your work every 2 weeks. In some cases, it could still be like concept work. In other cases, I'd like to see something more like polished and finalized, but I'll make that clear in the project requirements. Every class is broken up into a series of 2-week sprints. In this class, there will be 8. It accommodates a spring break in there, as well as finals week. So spring break is 1 week, finals week is 1 week, and I try to move things around to make sure that everything's kind of neat 2-week sprints. There's an exception of a 1-week sprint, and that's the one right before spring break. But we'll worry about that when we get there. Okay, so every 2 weeks, I will publish a sprint. So here you can see this first sprint for the first 2 weeks class. So sprint 1, I give you what the title is. And then in this module includes everything you're going to need for that sprint. I will always start with an agenda, which is kind of like this one page kind of note to you and all the materials that you'll need in terms of reading, any videos that I want you to watch, my note to you, as well as links to the assignments. Here I also provide, again, those links to those assignments. So this first one is a design assignment. This one's more writing than design at this point, and I'll walk through that in a bit. The second part is a discussion. I alternate between reflections and critiques. So this first sprint will be a reflection on the reading and the videos and podcasts that you listen to. I've also provided just some informational pages on the software that you'll need, at least for the first few sprints of class, which is Figma and WordPress. I also include a link to your syllabus that I provide to the school as well, and then the template that you'll need to complete the assignment for the first sprint. So let me go ahead and click through to the agenda. So here, I'm just going to go ahead and scroll down real quick. So here's, I tell you what the theme is, the important links. Here's my little note to you. We've got readings, video, and podcasts. So our book for this class is called Articulating Design Decisions. This book called Articulating Design Decisions, it is a reference book. It helps you better, obviously, communicate information about your design, talk through what your decisions were, talk through your rationale, and also be able to defend your work during critiques. Defend is kind of a strong word, but being able to explain your rationale, essentially. So this book is a great resource for, whether you're a UX designer, or motion designer, anytime you work independently but need to work with others to get something approved, this is a fantastic resource for you. And not only are we using it, in this class, but I also have to use it at work. So I think my team has a UX reading thing that we're doing, and this is our first book. So I'll be rereading this, even though I read it also early in my design career. So this is our book for the semester. It is available for free. There's one copy available through the Auraria Campus Library. I linked to that here. Let me go. Okay, I linked to that over here. We have, I'm going to click that one. So here, if you go into the Auraria Library, I think you'll have to log in with your student ID, but we do have it available. Because we only have one copy though, and we've got a handful of folks in this class. If you do check it out when you're ready to read the chapters, and then return it as soon as you're done. There's only 2 chapters to start. We want to make sure that everyone who wants access to it gets access to it, especially if folks are buying the paperback book. It might take, if you don't have Prime on Amazon, or if you're not using another service, it may take a couple days or a week to get the book. So I just want to make sure that everyone has access to it. In the meantime, though, the author has plenty of recorded videos online. They're typically recorded events and keynote talks that he's done, so that he's not actually lecturing on it, but he does talk about his book, and he talks about some of the themes within that book. So those may be good resources to tide you over until you get the physical book. However, I do recommend that you get the ebook so that you can reference it while on the job, which is what I'm doing very frequently. So, but that's just, that's a personal thing. I also like having the ebook so that I can read on the train, and that I have access to it on my laptop and my phone. But everyone kind of works differently. All right. So in my agenda, I'll go and review. So every sprint you'll have an agenda. I'm going to explain to you what the theme is. I'm going to write you a short little note, provide you with all the links you're going to need for those 2 weeks. We've got readings, we've got videos, and we've got podcasts. So I would prefer that you do the reading, of course. Reading is good. I've provided some videos as well. I think, the videos, depending on the length, it could take a lot of extra time. The videos, I think, are important, but I will leave it up to your discretion to manage your time on the number of videos that you watch, or do you go at 1.25 speed? I'm not going to dictate that. That's up to you. I will say for this sprint, I think this first one is pretty important. It's called Creating Seamless Multi-Device Experiences. That's what you're going to be doing in this semester, so that's why I think it's important. It's not spoken. It's the person who's presenting is not a UX designer, so he kind of talks about it in a different way. But I think some of the core principles or the core ideas still stand. Later on in the video, there's more information around design, but again, this is looking at multi-device experiences kind of from a different industry lens. Here I've provided a few more videos for you to check out. And then something new that I'm introducing into my classes is to also listen to a few podcast episodes. You don't have to listen to the whole show, that's a lot. So I linked a few here, a few shows here, and then I will let you choose whichever episodes you find interesting. I do realize you've got a bunch of other classes too, and you still have a design assignment. So, look through the titles, choose one that you think will be interesting, and I hope you find that you learn some cool things. All right. Underneath that, I will have sprint submission info. So this is what you'll be submitting by the end of the 2-week sprint. So we've got a design project and we have a discussion project, or discussion board, post, whatever. I will click through to those in a second. The last part will always include my contact information. So when you contact me, please do so through Canvas inbox. That will ensure that I get a push notification to my phone so I know to look at it. If you send me email through Outlook, I sometimes miss it because my work email is also Outlook. So like I have to toggle between inboxes and I end up missing stuff. So always best practice just to send me messages through Canvas. If I don't respond within like 24 hours, please feel free to just like send me another message and say, hey, Mar, just checking in. Things happen. Sometimes I miss those notifications, even though I have them turned on. So help me help you. If I don't get back to you within a day, please do not hesitate to ping me again. I do not mind at all. I very much appreciate the reminder. All right, cool. Let's talk about your design project for the first sprint here. Okay, I'm going to load it. Okay, so your first major project for these 2 weeks is to pull together a project proposal. And this project proposal is your kind of like original idea that you will apply across different digital devices. So these devices are meant to kind of work together. They may not be one-to-one replacements or substitutes for one another. Ideally, it creates this ecosystem of digital design products that work harmoniously with one another. There may be data that is transferred or handed off to another device and then is played on another one. But I want you to think through kind of like in the assignment. My requirement is 3 kind of like digital devices or digital form factors that you will focus on, and your design project will have experiences across those 3 devices. I provide a template for you to use. I'm going to go ahead and click on that for you. Okay, so I provide this template for you. You can use it as is in Google Docs or like download it to Word and do your thing. You can also create this in Canvas as well. So in Figma. If you want to create like a design strategy, presentation deck using this, you can also do that. I will provide extra credit if you do, but it's more than acceptable just to use this template in a Word doc or in Google Docs as is. All right, so the project that you come up with, give it a name. So I run a lot of Disney races, so I've created all this placeholder content around that. So feel free to delete that and then replace it with your own content. But here I have an app or site name, the product experience name. So here I call it the Run Disney Digital Experiences. I have written here a project proposal. So it's essentially like a 1-paragraph pitch that explains what the opportunity is. So like in this case, like the number of customers or runners annually that do these road races. I explain what the idea is and what kind of problems they're meant to solve, or what kind of business opportunities arise from having this digital experience. Underneath that, I would like you to explain what some of the primary behaviors and what the demographic profiles are of your users. So this is kind of similar to like what personas are. I just didn't want to call it personas because personas mean like a really specific thing to designers. Here, I want you to communicate, who is this for? So runners is like too broad, right? I want you to explain, what those people do that help inform why this product is needed and how you will design your experience. So in this case, I know that registration is really tough and these races sell out. So one of the primary behaviors that I want to support is optimizing chances for registration. And some of the behaviors I've seen is people opening up multiple tabs on multiple devices. So very much like eBay or like Ticketmaster behavior. I also see that these folks are social media savvy, so they share a lot of tips with each other, through like social media. There is a, kind of this age profile. I haven't seen runners over 90, but maybe there are. There's a lot of really talented runners, and
the older you go. But yeah, so there's definitely kind of like this age window for it. I would challenge you to think, though, about your product and if an age window is required. And one big question that I want you to answer internally is this age requirement, does it create some sort of barrier to entry? Is there a reason why these ages exist? If it's just arbitrary and you're saying young adults or like 18 to 26, like why? Like why could someone in their 30s or the 50s can't use it? So whenever you put something in, always expect it to be, kind of scrutinized, which is where articulating design decisions come into play. All right, so these are some of the behaviors, demographics of your users. After that, I have a section for user goals. So what are some of the things, what are some of the tasks that they're trying to complete or goals they're trying to achieve with the product, like the ecosystem that you're creating? So here I'm focusing on learning about the events, how to register, purchasing merchandise, planning on-course experiences, and so on and so forth. So I want you to think about, what problem it is that you're solving, and how are those mapped to like real goals of the people who will be using your digital like app product. Here I also have a section, make sure you cite your sources as well. So I want you to also provide data to defend some of the decisions you are making. In CAM, we use the Chicago format, so like you can probably find a way. There's a lot of citation websites that can help you like reformat your citations to fit. I'm okay with using websites. I'm okay with using books, news articles, etc. Like I just want you to do more than like the cursory, like go beyond one search. Right? Try to find the right amount of information to help supplement and inform your project. So here I put 2, but 2 is kind of the minimum. If you've got more, if you honestly have more, then make sure you kind of add those in, because you will cite them. I'm going to scoot back up here. You're going to cite them in your project proposal. So here you'll see, I have a figure here, 163,000 runners annually. That's not a number that I knew of off the top of my head. I had to pull that from somewhere, so this is where I pulled it from. Similarly, this particular quote, that comes from Disney, so I didn't come up with that information. Disney came up with it, so I'm not going to say that I came up with it. I'm going to say that Disney did, so that's my citation there. Especially when you're like paraphrasing, or if you're lifting an actual like quote, you'll want to make sure to cite that as well. All right. Okay, so next up we have, definitions of those devices and what the primary tasks are on those devices. So I have given you, I'm going to scoot back here to the assignment. Okay, let's see here. No, okay, it is missing. Where did I put it? Okay. Okay, I will update that. There are a number of devices that you can choose from for this project. So you can choose mobile, desktop, tablet, watch, or TV. And I want you to focus on at least 3 of those 5 experiences. Doing all 5, I think, is way too much. 3 devices will give you plenty of work, but also let you think through how those experiences are different across those devices, because whatever you do on a watch is not likely the exact same thing that you're going to do on a TV or the things that you may use a tablet that's on a kiosk or like the back of a airplane seat is not the same thing that you'll want to do on your computer, especially when there's differences in like tap targets or using a mouse to click. Your device will kind of determine how someone interacts with your product. So what I want you to do is choose 3. I will update this assignment to include, the 5 that you can choose from. So choose 3, and then for each device, I want you to explain why that device works best, or like is one of the 3 that works best for the goals and for the customers or users that you have identified. And then I want you to do that for all the devices. So here, the mobile app, I explain why the mobile app is optimal. Here I explain why the tablet app is optimal, and the desktop site. I include the watch just for fun. All right. In the second column, here's where I want you to explain those user tasks. So you have those goals, and they're also kind of tasks. Here is where you'll take that. You will choose which tasks are most suited for that device, and you will write them as something called user stories. So user stories is a industry format, meaning whenever they drop projects onto you, sometimes if done well, they'll provide requirements and also a set of user stories. So as a user, I want to blink because blank, or so that blank. So here I've provided that format for you as well. So here, as a persona, so as a customer, here as a Disney guest, or as a participant, as an attendee, I want to, whatever that task is, so that, whatever the outcome would be. So in this case, if I were to give you an example for the first one for the mobile app, as the Disney guest, that's the persona, I want to, here's the goal, or the task I'm trying to complete, use the app on my mobile device to make reservations and check queue times. And then I follow that with what the outcome would be, what's the benefit, so that I can plan my visit efficiently and maximize my enjoyment. So user story has 3 components. It's the who, the what, and the why. All right, so persona, as a someone, I want to do something so that I achieve this goal. And you will create a set of these for your mobile app, your tablet app, and your desktop site, or whatever, 3 of 5 that you choose. I don't expect that these are going to be identical, so don't copy and paste your mobile app over your tablet and desktop and call it a day. Here, this assignment this semester is really thinking through an experience for your digital product ecosystem and how they might respond to different device sizes from a visual design perspective, but also from a user experience perspective. How might those needs and the usage of those devices change or be modified based on the size of the device, but also its portability or where it's located. All right. So once you do that, you will then create a feature table. So in this case, I've kind of listed again what are the specific, there could be waypoints in the app. They're features, meaning these are the major pieces of functionality that will live across the ecosystem. Doesn't quite matter yet where it maps to, but for the first part, I want you to focus on what is the main feature set. So here I've got event information, newsfeed, registration, schedule, etc. Then in these columns, you will then you'll put the 3 devices that you've chosen. So here I've done 4, but mobile, tablet, desktop. And then I'll kind of show which of these devices will have that feature. And that way I know from a design perspective that, I will create a design or a layout that include, or an affordance, you may not be able to design all the features in a 16-week semester, but at least it'll give you a sense of, the places and the amount of screens that you'll need to communicate your vision in this semester, and leave some placeholders so that if you decide to continue working on this over the summer, or kind of polish it up for pre-work for your thesis, that you'll kind of have all of those placeholders in mind. Something that I've included here as a way for you to think ahead, remember, I want you to kind of be prepared for the industry, is to think about ways to automate the information or how to incorporate AI. So AI is typically used for automation. So can these features be automated in some way? Meaning that a user or a customer doesn't have to take extra action to get value out of that information. So, instead of just showing someone a list of restaurants, for example, can you use their, previous search history? Can you use dietary preferences to just automatically filter out things? Maybe they're vegan, maybe they're gluten-free, or they only like certain brands or certain types of cuisine. Is there a way that they can come to, a list of restaurants without having to actually go through filters or sorting manually? Is there what is there an opportunity to collect that information and then to use it in a smart way across the experience? So that's what that means. So it's either yes or no. You'll then kind of explain here, like where it says ways to automate, like provide some of that information. This is all new to us. It's all new to you. So, it's just a different way of thinking about the design. Feel free to bounce some ideas off of ChatGPT or Claude or Gemini or whatever other services you have access to. You can do as part of your research, if you do a competitive analysis on your own, you can also see what other ways data and interactions are automated. And the next column is monetize. So is there a way to make money from this experience that you're creating? So here, I just have a one-liner. So it's okay if you have a one-liner too. If you want to provide more detail, please do. I'm sure it's something that'd be very interesting to the folks, that you present to, if this is something that goes out as a portfolio presentation for a job or an internship. All right, so that wraps up your major assignment for Sprint 1. Again, you can just use this template as is for full, and if done correctly, for full points. If you want to recreate this as a presentation deck, I will provide you with extra credit. Your presentation deck should be in Figma though, because that will give you some practice before we, start doing the design work in Figma. So try not to use Google Slides or PowerPoint. You can use Figma for it. And if you want to use, I think Figma has a presentation or slides format. You can use that. But if you can do it as a design file, again, it'll give you some practice to creating text boxes and alignment and stuff. That will be much more helpful as practice before you get into designing your actual screens. All right, so that's your big design deliverable for Sprint 1. Let me go back to your agenda here. So at the bottom, there's also a discussion. So this one should be fairly straightforward. After you do the reading, listen to some of the a podcast episode, watch a couple of the videos, I want you to reflect on the information that you learned. So, what idea kind of stood out to you most? How are you going to apply the information from that media to your design practice? And how will you think about it in context of your current project or your future design work? So pretty simple. If you do the reading, if you even, if you do some of the light reading or scrub through some of the videos, you'll be able to finish this. Once you write your reflection, you will then respond to 2 classmates. Please do it using complete sentences, words, real words, not just bullet points. Ironically, I show this in bullet points to make it easier for you to read. But when you respond to folks, I want you to get into the practice of writing messages and writing emails for work. So you typically don't do that in bullet form. You typically do that in full sentences. So make sure you respond to at least 2 of your classmates. And pick one of the posts that don't have responses yet. That will help everyone kind of feel included as well. Okay, there is, let me see if I can, okay, I'm going to view this as a student. Okay, all right, so you have to post before you can see replies. Doesn't have doesn't really tell you here, unfortunately, but there are kind of 2 due dates here. So I'm going to leave the student view. So you'll need to post your, let me go back to the edit here. So you'll have to post your response, and then your replies on 2 different days, or at least, deadline by 2 different days. So the first one, you gotta submit your first post by January 30th. So that's not this Friday, but the following Friday. Then your responses need to be done by Sunday. So you got a few days in between when you post and when you respond. Of course, the earlier you get it done, the better. But that also depends on you doing all the reading and listening as well. So keep in mind there's 2 due dates for that discussion post. Canvas should show you that in the calendar of deliverables, but you'll need to post your original post and then respond to students. All right. What else is there? Okay, so last thing is that you can contact me again if you have any questions about the assignments, if you're lost, if you need clarification. You can also schedule virtual office hours with me. So I don't have a physical office at the CU Denver campus. I do work downtown, so I'm at the 1515 Wynkoop building, which is right across the street from Union Station. So I am downtown if folks need me, but since this is an online class, I'm providing virtual office hours. So you'll click through, and then from here, you will see my scheduler. So I've got availability on Tuesday, Thursdays. If the times don't work for you, they're all consistent. I'll just click on one. So we've got 5:30, 5:45. These are 15-minute sessions, and you can book more than one if you need to, which is fine. If Tuesday, Thursdays, 5:30 to 6 do not work for you, message me through Canvas and let me know what does, and then I'll figure out with my work schedule and whatnot I'll give you some other times. You give me some times, I'll let you know if it works or provide you some alternatives. But please use the scheduler, because then everything like automatically sends to your calendar, and then I get the alert. Nothing gets lost through email or through messages. All right, I think that walks you through what you need for the first 2 weeks of class.
I hope that was helpful. Please let me know if you need anything. And I hope all of your other classes in your week goes very smoothly. If you were in my class as a waitlist student, please make sure you check with the in-person sessions first. Cam typically wants those in-person classes filled before we add folks on the online class. So I know there's like 2 in-person classes available for Interactive 2. I believe after the first week, your information does automatically get dropped from Canvas, so you'll end up like losing your work. So just make sure you kind of keep an eye on that wait list, and then also check with those like in-person sections to see if there's still room available. All right. Well, have a good first day or first week of class. I look forward to hearing more from you all. Have a good one.